What is up, my friends? So, I haven't made an episode breakdown for this show as I was watching it, and I just was like, should I do an episode breakdown? I don't know if people are really watching it or not. But after today's episode, I was just like, I need to talk about this show with y'all because this show is one of the best shows so far. And of course, HBO, my friend HBO never lets me down. They give us amazing shows, and that is the case with The Undoing. So The Undoing is a show that basically is The Undoing is basically a drama thriller about a murder that takes place. So what's basically going on in this show, The Undoing, is one of the moms in this show actually gets killed, and everybody gets involved in the school system and everything, and there is a primary suspect involved, and what we're trying to figure out now is who is it and why did they do it. So I'm not wanting to get into spoilers right now. I highly suggest you go watch the show if you haven't already, because it is such a good TV show. So before I get into any spoilers, this is your moment to exit out if you haven't already watched the show, or if you want to watch it and don't want any spoilers. So go ahead and do that right now. But if you're still here listening right now as I'm talking, you want the spoilers. So let's get right into it. So Nicole Kidman is the star of this show. She plays Grace Fraser. Her husband is played by Hugh Grant, Jonathan Fraser. And basically what happens is that we find out that Jonathan Fraser had an affair with Elena Alves, one of the mothers that we find in the beginning of the story that later on gets killed. And now Jonathan Fraser is suspect number one. So there are a lot of questioning and everything throughout the show, and a lot of evidence being found out as we go along. We're starting to not be clear if Jonathan really is the killer, or if it could be maybe Fernando Alves, who was Elena's estranged husband. And so it's very interesting what's going on right here as they present this. And in the latest episode, we are here at trial date as Jonathan Fraser goes up against the court to try and figure out, us as the viewer, if he did it or not. So as the episode progressed here, we saw that Jonathan Fraser's lawyer was pretty much going to be a great lawyer, as we saw her pretty much taking on everybody from Detective Joe Mendoza to Fernando Alves, and it's just going to be interesting to see how this is all going to play out. Now, however, we come to learn that Jonathan Fraser was actually lying about other things to his own wife, Grace Fraser, which ends up being that he actually didn't let the family dog die. He actually let his sister die. And the reason that happened was because he was preoccupied doing something else, and she went outside and got hit by a car when she was just 4 years old, and he was 14 years old. And so that really was something that was like, what? Why would you like not ever say that to me? Which was exactly how Grace felt. She ends up confronting the mother and asking more about this situation, and we get some more alarming details about it, such as that Jonathan didn't even feel guilt or remorse for anything that happened and never even talked about it. And so now Grace is like, I think he might actually just be a sociopath. So could he actually be the one who killed Elena and actually have done all this, and we're just trying to live some lie right now, but we don't know, right? And so what we see at the end of the episode, however, is another twist of events where we see that, hey, what is this doing here? Because Grace actually finds the hammer that was used to kill Elena, and it is actually in her son Henry's violin case. And now we're just like, okay, nothing makes sense. Did the kill Elena, or what is going on? So there's possible theories I'm going to go over right now, and I'll be making another video talking about what I think is going to happen in the ending. But I think that we are possibly going to be seeing that Jonathan Fraser might actually get out on some sort of technicality, because the lawyer is actually making some points about how the police and everything just sort of were like on a mission to get a suspect as quick as possible, because this crime, as she points out, was pretty gruesome, and so many people wanted it to be solved right away because they didn't want to be in fear of what is actually going on. And so that's what she's exactly trying to do, is trying to put the police on their toes and be like, why did you do this and did that, and are we sure we can actually try this man if there's more suspects out there? Because one of the suspects that the lawyer says, why wasn't she a suspect, is actually Grace herself, because she was walking about in the area during the time of the crime. And so she's like, why didn't you bring her in for questioning or ask her what's going on? Also, Fernando, he is actually somebody who could be a suspect because of his jealousy. He found out that Elena was cheating on him, and so there's some of his DNA present as well. And so I think that that's something we're headed to right before we got to the end of this episode, though, because now that they throw in this curveball of this hammer being present in Henry's violin, what are we supposed to say about this, right? Because are we supposed to believe that Henry could have somehow done this? And the little snippet at the end of each episode that you see of what you're getting into the next episode seems to point that everybody's starting to believe now that Henry may have something to do with this or know a little bit more than he is giving in on. And so we saw him in this episode as well be sort of like pushy out to his parents about asking, are we going to be a family again after all this? It looks like everything's working out. And so he's becoming a little bit more, I would say, close to being like, I think we have this in the bag the way this is working out. One of the other things as well we learned is that Henry knew about Elena and Jonathan before his mother even did, because he even points out and says he had seen them during or right before school, like pretty close to each other, and kind of pissed him off a little bit to think about that. And so it could be an interesting theory, I think, but I don't think that's gonna be what's gonna happen here. The other possibility I could definitely see happening here, the most plausible thing, if there is another suspect, and one that I thought about myself during the watching of this show in its recent, is that Grace Fraser's own father could have been the one to do this in order to blame his son-in-law. And the reason I think that is because he keeps talking about Jonathan and being like, he did this and all of that with such certainty. And I mean, of course, all the evidence and everything is pointing out to him, and it's definitely looking like he could be the one. But it's just very interesting how he's sort of like already like, I know he's the one, and he has to pay for what he's done, and how he tells Grace over and over that after all of this is done, don't think that you should stay with him just because that's going to be the better thing for my grandson to have his father, because he's a psychopath. Why would he want him near him? And so us finding the hammer in his violin case doesn't mean exactly that Henry himself put it there, but somebody else did in order to hide it. And maybe now it's sort of coming together. Or, you know what, even his own father could have told him to hide it, and this is the way that they can be a family again, is if he is innocent, and Henry, in an effort to keep his family together, will do whatever it takes, and even if that means lying and covering up for his father. So, you know, it could be interesting what's going to happen in the next episode. I am definitely interested to see. I will be making a video talking about that this week, about the possible theories and possible suspects, and more plausible one that it could be. So if you want to hear more about that, make sure you tune in. This is also based on a book, so I will be making a video talking about the book and what happens there, as opposed to what happens in the series. So if you want more of that, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following me here for more on all the things you love about pop culture. You can follow me on TikTok or Twitter as well, all provided down below or on the screen, as you can see. And yeah, let me know your theory on the undoing. Who do you think actually killed Elena? And do you think that we are going to find out in the next episode? I don't know if this is a limited series or not, but I'm going to definitely look into it, because if not, we might just be left on a cliffhanger and not know until next season. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyways, as always, I'll see all of you next time. Make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, share, turn on the bell for notifications. We are on the road to 20,000 subscribers. We are very, very close. That is where I want to get to before the end of the month, so hopefully we can do that. It is going to be Thanksgiving, so happy holidays this week. I will have as many videos as I can for you, but I will try. So anyways, as always, I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.